We can now give our attention to a different purpose. Instead of ministering to the masses, we must make sure Yeshua's children and the children conceived by those of us in our generation live long enough to be able to awaken the cosmic light that is genetically encoded within them. We must teach this next generation how to live and demonstrate the way of love and liberation that was the same purpose for which we took birth. Hi, and welcome back to Empowered Spirit Healing. I am really excited to continue on with episode 5. I know I say that every episode, that I'm so excited to continue on, but I really am. I just can't wait to learn more about the Essene community and about Yeshua's life and about Anna's life and all the Marys, because there was a lot of Marys going on. So it's really fascinating to hear all of this and just to understand some of the mysteries that are in the Bible, because growing up, I grew up as Presbyterian and I went along to Sunday school every Sunday and learned the stories of the Bible. And I always had so many questions. There was just so many unanswered questions. And I do want to give a shout out to an amazing channel called Mind Unveiled. If anybody is interested in learning more about the Bible, and if you can handle a very intense breakdown of the Bible, it's not for the faint-hearted, but man, Mind Unveiled, the work that he does, he is brilliant. And he has just started doing a series on decoding the Bible. And he's done 2 episodes so far, 3 hours, well over 3 hours worth of viewing. And it's mind-blowing. They're episodes that you kind of need to watch a few times to just take it all in, because there is so much in that. But anyways, that's a bit of a sidetrack. I also just want to share with everybody that I have created a very special gift for everybody that is interested in downloading it and joining my mailing list. I'm going to start sending out a monthly newsletter to people just to kind of give some guidance for the energy of the month. And the free gift is a 7-day nervous system reset to help people mainly feeling safe around money, because money is a huge issue for everybody. And a lot of us are not receiving because, number one, we're not open to receiving more. And so many of us are not open to receiving more because we have so many programmed beliefs, scarcity, lack, so much fear all around money. And seeing money as, a lot of us have grown up thinking that money is evil and what's the root of all evil and all that kind of thing. So I have created a very special 7-day PDF to follow, and also a guided meditation to go along with that, to just to gently start reprogramming your mind. So yeah, if you are interested in signing up for that, the link will be in the pinned comments below. So now let's get stuck into chapter 7, which is all about Mary of Bethany. Discourses on spirituality and relationship with Yeshua and Sar'h. This is in Lake Mariotis, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Egypt, AD 30. In brackets it says, the setting for this chapter is near Alexandria, Egypt, shortly after Yeshua's resurrection. Mary is with child. So just a quick reminder, in our last episode, we heard from Mary of Tiana, who was actually Yeshua's first wife. Now we're going to be hearing from Mary of Bethany, who is the Mary that we've all known as Mary Magdalene. We're starting off with Catherine Ann, henceforth CA. What is the first impression you have? Mary of Bethany. Yeshua is kneeling before me. My hands are upon his head. CA. What are you doing at this moment with your hands on his head? Mary of Bethany. We are being still. I am placing his head against my belly that is filled with child. His arms are around me, pulling me close. I stroke his long, fine textured hair. I am happy he is here and that I now have the blessing of motherhood. CA. Is this Mary of Bethany? Mary of Bethany. It is. You called me forth. I am feeling somewhat weak. I have been ill with what you call morning sickness. The child is beginning to move and my belly is starting to swell with ripeness. With this joy, I am in Egypt now. CA. Has Yeshua been with you the whole time or only occasionally? Mary of Bethany. We have had relatively lengthy visits. He is not always with me because he has much to do. It is quite hot now. I stay in the shadows where it is somewhat cooler. I have cloths that are dampened with water, which I place on my head. I hear the nearby reassuring sounds of families and the soft voices of those who are cloistered at this monastery of the Essenes and Therapeuta. It is a place of safety. We live on the shore of Lake Mareotis, which is located south of Alexandria, where the Nile has many branches, as does a tree. Except instead of stretching skyward, her limbs spread out and empty into the blue waters of the great sea. She brings fertile soil and abundant water to this region where we are abiding. CA. Are there any others of the family with you? Mary of Bethany. My father, Joseph of Arimathea, brought me and Miriam of Tiana and her children a few weeks ago from Alexandria. We found refuge in the city for almost 2 months. But now that I am beginning to swell with child, it was decided that we come to a place of greater safety. Father will be leaving soon. He has much concern for the many family members left in Judea and Galilee. I'm glad that Yeshua is here with me, Miriam and the children. Yeshua is still recovering from his great ordeal. We all need much rest. Our constitutions have been stretched thin. I am thankful for our safe passage to Alexandria and the serenity that abides here in this Essene sanctuary. I know those who live in this community can keep our very guarded secret from those who would bring us harm. CA. Who would bring you harm? Mary of Bethany. There are people of the Jewish priesthood who hold much fear and anger towards us. They misperceive our purposes and our work. Their eyes are blinded. They see not what is before them that could make their way easier and their paths smoother. Their ears are closed. They hear not how they can better fulfill the higher law of love spoken of by the great teachers and prophets. They, in their pride, prefer strife and conflict rather than to claim a way of life in which they can enjoy a grander harmony within their souls and a greater peace within their homes and families. Then there are also the Romans who insist that the people who live in the lands they occupy pay tribute to Emperor Tiberius and render obedience to the Roman gods. They encourage peace, but it is a controlled peace with a closed fist. Yeshua was arrested by the Pharisees and judged worthy of crucifixion by Pontius Pilate. Word has spread that my beloved did not die. So that's interesting. That word has spread that Yeshua did not die. They never included that one in the Bible, did they? We are considered fugitives from both Roman and Jewish law. There are ruthless men who would gladly exchange our lives for bounty. We must take great precautions. It is a harrowing time with much unrest. Souls are goaded by fear. Many people barely subsist on the little that is their lot. They turned to us begging for relief. Few of them know how to sustain any measure of peace within their hearts and lives. I really, really feel for them. It would have been such a tough time to live through. I mean, I know that we are all going through our own struggles in this time in the world that we are in right now. But I think we are lucky today that we have a lot of knowledge, a support. So many of us are building communities with people even all over the world. I've become really good friends with some beautiful people in the US, which is amazing because I'm based in Australia and I would never have met these people because I've never been to America yet. And it's all through being on YouTube and starting to build this community. So we're very, very lucky. And I just really feel for them back in that time. It would have been so scary and they wouldn't have had ways to share the truth with each other like we do today with the internet. It would have all been very different and very, very scary. So even with all the knowledge that they have, and I think this is why it's so important that we learn spiritual ways to cope with life because life is challenging. And I believe, we signed up for that. Our soul came here knowing that this was going to be a very challenging time right now as all the truth is starting to come out and as the world is realizing, the world is not what we thought it was. And we are starting to make changes in the world, but it's probably going to be a rough few years while all of things are being exposed. And so having some spiritual knowledge is just so powerful. Having faith in something, I believe personally, because it's helped me so much, has really, really I just feel like that's what we need right now to cope with the situation and to stay strong and to stay not positive in the sense of toxic positivity, but just in a way that we can stay strong and empowered and keep moving forward instead of falling into a victim mentality, which is so easy to do. And I still have moments of falling into a victim mentality. But it's through having a belief in something now that has really, really helped me, and it's helped to prevent anxiety and struggles that I have struggled with in the past and getting quite depressed. And as I've shared before in other episodes, for me, that has been Kabbalah. But that might not be the path for you. You might need to find something else. And it doesn't really matter what it is, I don't think, as long as it's something that helps you to feel good and feel like you have the strength to get through the tough times. And I think that the beautiful knowledge that they had, they had the knowledge of Kabbalah back then. It just wasn't, I don't think it was called it back then. With Yeshua going to India and meeting Babaji, spending time in England with the Druids, spending time in Egypt, learning the initiations of Isis. It's all of this training that they had that they have learned just a different way of perceiving life that enables you to stay strong and get through these tough times. So I urge you not to follow anything that doesn't feel right for you, but having some kind of a spiritual belief is incredibly powerful and really helps you get through the tough times. Okay, continuing on. Even though I am not able to see the effects for good as yet, I feel that we have succeeded quite well in our mission to bring a greater light to humanity. We have held up a mirror in which to belong the innate beauty and perfection abiding within every heart. We have left sayings that, if contemplated and practiced, will enable the seeker of heaven's treasures the ability to find immeasurable gifts of peace and equanimity within the stillness of their own mind and breast. It is wise for us to not expect much positive change in this, our lifetime, though I believe a goodly harvest of the seeds we planted will be enjoyed by all who choose to participate of their fruits in the generations to come. It takes a great faith to rest in the simple comfort that we gave our all to the way of loving kindness in the years we toiled upon the plains, deserts, and mountains. We take comfort, not pride, in the fact that our vow to end humanity's suffering did not stop with only the crowds who came to us for healing. Our vow of eternal love and our assurance in the truth that death has no sting found victory in the life-giving garden sepulchre. We came to know the liberating truth beyond the shadows that still darken the killing field of Golgotha. We do not know how our beloved planet and the coming generations of humanity will receive the intense energies we anchored before and during the week of Passover in Jerusalem. We are still too close to the events and the energies that were poured out during those days in which we fulfilled our promised destiny as we understood it. However, I can say that even though it has only been a few short months since Gethsemane, I feel a different vibration when I walk upon the Earth Mother. Our brothers and sisters of space and those of the angelic realms whom we have come to know and honour dearly through our deep inner work assisted us to anchor cosmic frequencies. They are continuing to hold their positions. These wonderful beings of light are monitoring the grids and assisting the Earth to stabilize her axis. Though this long cosmic era will likely continue to see much darkness, we hold a different view in which a peace-loving society may come forth amid great adversity to be true gardeners and stewards of life. We hold forth a vision of men, women, and children wisely, and compassionately holding the scale of balance and harmony for the benefit of all in seamless oneness. Thankfully, we are here on the shore of a lovely lake near Alexandria, where we can enjoy a time of rest and turning inward, a place dedicated to living quietly and simply. We can now give our attention to a different purpose. Instead of ministering to the masses, we must make sure Yeshua's children and the children conceived by those of us in our generation live long enough to be able to awaken the cosmic light that is genetically encoded within them. We must teach this next generation how to live and demonstrate the way of love and liberation that was the same purpose for which we took birth. Yeshua has spoken of 11 other male avatars and their wise consorts who abide upon the earth at this pivotal time. Each has endowed the world with the gift of enlightened teachings. Some of them also have children. These children are being brought up by the families dedicated to sharing love's fruits equally with all. We must do our best to prepare receptive fields where all our children can disperse love's quickening light to the entire world, so that suffering caused by perceived separation from the source of love might someday cease. And I agree with this so much. There is a lot of talk, there's a few books out there talking about rainbow children and crystalline children, and how it kind of started with the indigo children. And they're all just generations of children that are coming in. I think the indigo children are around the time that I was born. I was born in 87, so it's around that time. And then after that, there's been different generations of children. I can't remember the exact names in order, but there are a lot of amazing children coming into the world at this time to help raise the vibration of the planet and to help Mother Earth heal. And I truly, truly believe in this. And I believe we can all do our part by supporting these children and loving them. And instead of labeling them all with, ADD and autism and all these other things, I'm not denying that those are not issues, because I also have ADD and have struggled with that and concentration, and I've been on and off medication for that over the years. And it is a real thing, and we do need to support our children in that, but also we need to be aware that they are just learning in a different way. Children that struggle at school are struggling because of the way the system is set up. And what's also interesting that I've noticed by speaking to other parents who also go to Rudolf Steiner schools, and I'm assuming it's probably the same with Montessori schools as well, is that children that are so-called labeled with ADD are not struggling with these issues. It's not really a problem at these kind of schools, because they're taught in a different way. They're taught in a beautiful rhythm and through stories and things that are practices that are much more hands-on. There's not all this pressure in the same way. I mean, of course, there's still pressure. They still have standards. They still have to follow government rules and curriculums, but it's just so much more supportive to the development of the child. And it's about bringing in certain lessons and certain ideas at the developmental stage that the child is ready for. Instead of in mainstream schools, they're just cramming more and more information at a younger and younger age. And I think that is why so many kids are struggling with anxiety and depression these days. It just is more and more common, and it's so sad. And I think, we're not all in a situation where we can send our kids to a Steiner school. I understand that. I feel extremely lucky that I've been able to do that. But there are ways that we can support our kids in other ways. And for anybody that's interested, there are a few different books that discuss about care of these children, the rainbow children and crystalline children, and you're welcome to explore them, because these children are the next generation that are going to help raise the vibration of the planet. And then that comes back to why I think it's so important to have something to believe in. Also angels as well. Like, I've really developed a relationship with angels over the years, and it's through my belief in them and communicating with them that I have just felt like I'm not alone and I'm not struggling, that there's somebody always there on the other side supporting me and protecting me and helping me move through the difficult times in our lives. And I think when we don't feel like we're alone in the world, then we have the strength to move forward and to help come from a place of more love and compassion, because I really feel that the way that this world can heal and we can help Mother Earth heal is by having more love and compassion for others. And in order to do that, we need to do that by loving and having compassion for ourselves and healing ourselves. So that's just my 2 cents worth. Okay, so now we're going to read Discourse on the Light-Seeded Children and the Spiritual Awakening. And this is still Mary of Bethany who is talking. I wish to clarify some misunderstandings I experience that many people have about us and their possible relationship to us, which are, in truth, often their own ego projections, seeking aggrandizement. Speaking more directly about our children, some people think of our posterity as a special lineage endowed with exceptional abilities and with preordained authority simply because they are descended directly from Yeshua. Some place a lot of misguided energy into seeking out their possible bloodline connection or a past life spent with us, or they claim to be a future incarnation of one of us. This does not mean there is no truth to authentic spiritual lineages, or that a very real soul connection is not possible. Rather, I am encouraging such a seeker to look clearly into what motivates them to believe and seek such information. Then I encourage them to question the authenticity, relevance, and benefit of what they find with their unfolding understanding of their present life purpose, which is ultimately to awaken from separation's dream. Regardless of lineages and past life connections, though these auspicious conditions, when wisely directed, may indeed assist. And I agree with this. I think some people can get a bit carried away with past lives and wondering their bloodline connections and things like that. And while it is absolutely fascinating to look into this, and, you know, with past lives, it can be very healing to understand certain things about a past life and how that might be affecting us. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't, it can be helpful to uncover how an issue might be affecting us in this life, but to not get caught up in that. And because that's not really what's important. What's important is our current life right here, right now, and what we're doing with this life, how we're treating other people, what we're doing to help in the raising the vibration of the planet. I mean, even if you just go to your job every day with joy, you have love and compassion for your children every day, you are making a huge difference. Not everybody needs to be out there with a YouTube channel or doing big work. You know, it's even just the small little things that we do each day, being kind to a neighbor, helping somebody who's struggling on the street, maybe giving some money to a homeless person. It's all these little kindnesses that we do on a regular basis that matter more. And that is actually what is taught in Kabbalah as well. The guy I like to follow, David Guillaume, he you know, he's making a big difference in the world with his platform on YouTube and all that kind of thing. But he says at the end of the day, in Kabbalah, it's taught it doesn't matter how many people you're reaching. If you then go home and you're not treating your wife and your children, or your husband and your children, with kindness and love and compassion, and if you're not working on how you're responding to a situation instead of reacting all the time in anger and not very nice behavior, then as far as the spiritual growth is concerned, you're not making any difference. You could reach millions of people in the world, and that's not going to matter if you're not doing the work on yourself and behaving in a way that is going to help and benefit others and grow yourself as a spiritual person. So it's just so fascinating to hear that, because so many of us think, oh, we have to do something so big to make a difference in the world. How can I, this one small person, do anything to make a difference? But to know that just treating your children with love and compassion instead of losing your temper at them, and just having a little bit more patience for them, is actually making a difference to healing the world, is profound. And especially for me, it motivates me as well, because not only am I being a better mum to my children, which is very important to me. But it's also helpful to know that, wow, I'm making a difference in the world by behaving like this. And I think the more people that work on that, instead of worrying about doing big things, that's when we will have that 100th monkey effect. For anybody that's heard of the 100 monkey effect, it's, if you haven't heard of it, it's the idea of where there's some monkeys on an island, and say one of the monkeys came up with this idea to wash the sweet potatoes before they eat them, and all the other monkeys around start to follow this idea, and then once it's reached 100 monkeys start doing this, then monkeys on another island suddenly get this idea and start doing it as well, even though they're in a completely different island and have no idea. But that goes to show that there's something going on a vibrational level. There, we are all connected in some way. And so even the small differences that we're making at home with the way we treat our family, our work colleagues, the way we're showing up at work, the way we're showing up when we go down to the shops to do our food shopping, how we're treating strangers, all of that is having a much bigger effect than we realize on the entire world and its healing. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. So continuing on, when I talk about our children who are special in our eyes, I do not mean to say that our children are superior to other children. All beings are uniquely special. We are all collectively divine. All life is cosmically endowed with light, not just our children. The skillful means to fully express that light is given freely to every heart that humbly knocks and asks our Heavenly Father, Mother, for the grace of remembrance. For most human beings, their intrinsic radiance, their essential being, is obscured by their ceaseless mental ruminations of the past and future, accompanied by all manner of emotional suffering. For others who are more awake, their true nature, the infinite light, is more easily accessed, and they are more willing to acknowledge their obscurations so that these can skillfully be removed. With such awakened individuals, a spontaneously arising self-luminous presence can be seen and felt, as is the case with Yeshua, especially now that he has attained his immortal body of light. We understand from a larger perspective it is karmically appropriate and agreed by the collective souls of humanity that wise, compassionate teachers, some who are fully enlightened, take incarnation during the cycles of time in order to be of service to the unconnected web of life. Such ones vow to remain close to the earth and to take repeated conscious births in order to assist all beings whose lives endure endless deaths and rebirths, so that we may all collectively awaken from our dream of suffering. The children I speak of are some of these more awakened and compassionate souls. They consciously choose to incarnate in order to be a light to humanity during times of great darkness. They are often birthed within favourable conditions, such as supportive families, communities, teachers, and teachings. Everything that is required to provide stability and skillful means for remembering who they are. I have observed that when children are conceived and reared by couples whose consciousness and example is more awake, they are more interested in opening their minds and hearts to the way of mindfulness and loving kindness. They are aware of each present moment and the naked suchness of everything that arises within it, reorganizing each transient breath as a fleeting opportunity to feel intrinsic joy, and each heartbeat a brief chance to express kindness, knowing that this precious human birth offers a most auspicious opportunity for awakening. Once their minds and hearts are open to acknowledging and understanding the existence of suffering, its causes, conditions, and cessation, rather than deny, judge, and reject it, they know their transitory experiences of pain are opportunities to bring compassionate awareness to their own humanity and to other people in such a way as to lessen the suffering we all experience. The children who are born into more conscious families are made aware that they are not immune from working out and healing their own personal karmas, or from directly experiencing the karma we all share. That of basic ignorance, which, beginning with unconscious birth trauma, often results in the perception of being a separate I in a separate body, divided within self, left to grieve our heart's immense loss when we perceive ourselves disconnected and alone. A false, pretentious self, what you call a persona, an ego, forms out of this core grief and terror. An immense need to be in control of life's uncertainties arises. An unquenchable thirst for more of whatever can, even briefly, assuage an ever-deepening despair becomes a constant preoccupation. The false self tries to preserve its existence and unmet desires with great tenacity. Attachment and addiction to unrequited desires obscures the true self in the same way the sun becomes obscured by clouds. But it is also the sun's light that reveals the clouds that obscure it. So it is likewise that the intrinsic light, which is the true self, reveals the false self and its obscuring masquerade of fleeting and fickle desires. If training is given in how to observe these ego desires, in understanding how clinging to selfish desires causes anxiety, anger, and grief, how trying to make the illusory nature of life solid and the impermanent state of the material world everlasting, which only causes them to feel more and more insecure, frustrated, confused, and confined, then they can grow beyond the limited self. As their awareness increases, they see that humanity has locked itself in a self-made prison. And with this awareness comes a deep-seated desire, the great desire, which extends beyond the ego's need to escape suffering, which extends beyond liberation for the sake of oneself only. With the great desire comes an innate compassion for all beings. As the compassionate initiate seeks liberation for all forms of life, not just for themselves, they begin to experience a consistent, joyful motivation to investigate spiritual teachings and to be disciplined in the practices. Absolutely. She has just explained all of this so well. Through this process comes the ability to embrace and love all beings as oneself, the true self, inseparable from the beloved, loving as the beloved loves. However, just being born into favorable conditions does not guarantee this liberation. I have also known many great souls born into the most grievous and adverse of circumstances, experiencing abuses of all kinds, who, knowing they are either working out their personal karmas or are serving the greater whole, humbly open their hearts and awaken as the beloved. I have also known enlightened masters born awake who consciously choose to be born as a light amid the greatest darkness. Unfortunately, there are also children born into the best of circumstances who later become complacent or who are overtaken by the poisons of their minds. Sadly, these souls forfeit the purpose of their human incarnation an opportunity for awakening in this lifetime. Although Yeshua's children may be extraordinarily gifted in the ways I have shared, I wish it to be understood when I speak for our conscious conception and protection of them, that we are not motivated by any thought of establishing and guarding a political dynasty, much less an ecclesiastical lineage. We do not feel entitled to, nor have any intention to presume that we have the right and authority to govern and lead others. We do not require or seek such powers for our children. Although we are dedicated to teaching and learning the necessary skills that make it possible to take on the responsibilities of leadership, when it is clearly indicated that others will truly benefit from our guidance or intervention. Our purpose is to freely offer loving kindness to all we meet and to set an example that may awaken wise and compassionate self-governance and a unified harmony among all beings as we all progress step by step on our shared journey. In the 2,000 years since we and the other 11 avatars and their consorts walked the earth, many generations have been born. Billions of souls call this planet home. With each succeeding generation, the cosmic light, which we anchored into our DNA and into the elements of the earth during our time, has been passed biologically and etherically onto all of you through the multiple lineages of our descendants. So just a little note for that section. The descendants referred to here are not only Yeshua and the Magdalenes, but also light-conceived children of Anna's genetic lineage. Although not discussed in detail, this also includes the descendants of the other avatars on the earth plane who conceived children at the same time as Yeshua, and perhaps unknown others who were light-conceived as well. That same liberating illumination which avatars, both male and female, have brought to the earth plane through all times abides within the living cells of humanity and all living things. There are no special descendants or a privileged lineage to seek. We are already what we are seeking. Searching for the historical Jesus Christ, Mary Magdalene, and our children is best done with a willingness to discern one's motivation with clarity and honesty. Once engaged in this rather intriguing search, a generous dose of common sense and a sense of humour is needed to keep the purpose of the self-chosen destination in clear perspective. Yes, it is important to know that we lived, that we loved dearly, and that we had children. It is, however, even more important that you also consciously live and love and bring forth children who know the ways of loving kindness in this your day. Rather than be distracted by our story, it is more important that you open to your own encoded Christ Magdalene nature, your essential light anointed nature in every precious moment. In this simple way, we can all reach the same destination. And once arriving, know we have never left home. Discourse on Spiritual Lineages. CA. You said you and Yeshua never intended to create a family dynasty or an ecclesiastical lineage. What about a spiritual lineage? Did you create a spiritual lineage, and does it still exist? It's a really good question. Mary of Bethany. In a sense, we created a new spiritual lineage in that Yeshua as an avatar and Miriam and I as his anointed consorts. So there's just a note here. Yeshua's cousin, Miriam, this is Miriam not spelt with a Y, later became one of Yeshua's spiritual consorts, forming a trinity with Miriam and Mary, known as the Three Marys. Wow. So there's a lot of Miriams and Marys going on. And so Yeshua ends up with 3 Marys. Were the first to present a distinct spiritual teaching not previously offered publicly in exactly the same way in which we have been trained in the ancient wisdom traditions. These ancient lineages that have held our ancient wisdom traditions are tributaries of a commonly shared wisdom source, which extends into the cosmos and subtle realms beyond this planet, ultimately having their origin in the absolute beyond the conceptual mind. The basis of our external teachings, if they are to be clearly understood, can be found within the context of the Mount Carmel Essenes, who practiced a deep mysticism that draws directly upon his ancient multidimensional wisdom. Within our Essene order are master teachers who know how to receive authentic empowerments and who, having the authority to transmit the sacred oral teachings and awakening energies still given to these initiates who are ready to receive them. We could not have done our work had it not been for the master teachers at Mount Carmel, such as Grandmother Anna, who set the stage and gathered a community of resonant souls, a spiritual lineage, if you will, with whom we could effectively play our roles. The essential wisdom and empowerments we espouse and embody are never used for the purpose of creating a religious doctrine and church such as Christianity, which, by the way, is not a spiritual lineage. Yeah. This is not to say that masters and initiates of an authentic spiritual lineage do not participate in all manner of religious, spiritual, philosophical, and scientific groups. Such ones work to bring benefit within and outside the doors of organized religion. In most cases, a thread of truth that benefits the lives of many is to be found in all doctrines and churches. Our way, however, is a lineage of light beyond names and creed that carries and transmits the necessary authentic empowerments for anyone who wishes to awaken to her or his true nature, the infinite light and love of the beloved, regardless of having or not having a particular religious or group affiliation. Our sayings and demonstrations are given to the seeker as an invitation to do as we do and turn inward where the peace that passes understanding is to be found. We offer practical skills for investigating how it is that our divisive minds and grieving hearts cause confusion, self-doubt, and all manner of suffering. In stillness, following the breath, we suggest how to witness the transient process of our minds and senses. Calmly resting in the great, unmoving, unifying spaciousness, simply watching passing thoughts, feelings, and sensations as naked suchness, without conceptualizing, without grasping the pleasurable or avoiding the painful, noting the impermanent and empty nature of our mind's contents and our body's sensations. Our way is to embrace the afflictive emotions of fear, anger, and grief, the poisons of the mind and heart, the obscurations that distort the self-luminous light, that dam the flow of eternal love. We encourage getting acquainted with these unacknowledged and rejected parts of self, which are poisonous by nature, using the poisons skillfully as alchemical antidotes to heal back into wholeness. Once free of emotional blockages and mental distortions, an ever-present infinite well spring of abiding calm and joy is realized. The great peace always present and comforting. It is true that the deeper transformational and often paradoxical meaning beyond Yeshua's words cannot be grasped by the ordinary mind. It is also true that those who listen with a lesser understanding, identifying with their impermanent physical bodies, seeking to lessen the burden of their fearful, guilt-ridden and grief-stricken lives, often take Yeshua's metaphysical and metaphorical sayings literally. Among these people are those who feel inadequate and powerless, who assume that an intellectual, literal interpretation is enough to qualify them to teach and lead others, who, not realizing the consequences of abusing their positions of influence, see an opportunity to wield power over others. The wolves in sheep's clothing who take advantage of the sheep, who ignorantly give their power away. These wolves and sheep create man-made dogmas and religions, enacting, rationalizing, and justifying holy wars against projected evils. Their own disowned darkness in the name of their professed saviors and gods, the one God divided against itself. Such ones are to be embraced and forgiven, for they know not what they do. They are the blind who take themselves and those who follow them into the ditch. So I find that very interesting. And this is where I think shadow work is extremely important, and learn to bring the parts of ourselves that we disown, that we don't like, that we've rejected, and bringing them to the light so that we can become more of a whole and complete person. Because I think when we don't do that, we can be very judgmental of others, and we will project the things that we don't like about ourselves onto other people and say that they're behaving in a certain way. And I feel like when we behave like that, because I've done that a lot in the past, it doesn't serve us in any way. It doesn't help us with our spiritual growth. And I think that's why I'm not very comfortable with religions, because I do feel like religions can be quite judgmental of others. And instead of being a part of that, when we learn to see the parts of ourselves that we don't like and love and accept those parts of ourselves, we then have more compassion and understanding for others. And because then we start to realize that, okay, yeah, I've done that too. I've behaved like that, or maybe I've been really rude on the road and cut people off. So then when somebody cuts you off, you can be a little bit more understanding and think, okay, maybe they're not a bad person. Maybe they're just having a bad morning. Maybe they're running late, whatever it might be. We tend to have more compassion for people when we have done the inner work and of accepting ourselves. And I feel one way that's really helped me a lot with this is by doing some inner child healing, and by going in and realizing that there are different parts of me that I didn't receive the love or appreciation or being seen or being heard the way I wanted to be as a child, and giving myself that now. Just imagining older me as I am now with little me, and just spending some time giving little me what I wanted, what I wish that I'd received from my parents. And that has been an incredibly healing journey as well, because then we don't when we feel like we are loved and seen and heard and appreciated and supported, once again, we have more love and compassion for other people. So they're very powerful practices that we can do, and we can do them on our own. We don't need training for that. We can just spend some time with our little self, and we can spend some time thinking about, okay, what parts of me have I rejected? And have I disowned? And can I bring them to the light and bring them back into myself and accept that I am okay the way I am with all of me? Nobody is perfect. We all have polarity. We all signed up for this when we came here. We all have the potential to be good. We all have the potential to be evil. It's the choices that we make. And I think loving and accepting ourselves, all of us, is incredibly powerful. There are also the unquestioning, anxious orthodoxy, fearing a man-made, jealous, and angry God. Again, the blind trying to lead the blind, who distrust Yeshua's unorthodox methods, such as honoring women as being equal to men, inviting the beggar and prostitute, the prince and ascetic to enjoy his company and sayings equally, considering the uncircumcised as worthy as the sons of Abraham, finding them all sons and daughters of a loving mother, father, creator. Yeshua also teaches us how to embrace the mystical union of polar opposites instead of fostering the dualistic conflict of good against evil. And perhaps the most threatening is his teaching that God's presence is directly available to all without an intercessory savior/God/goddess or an ordained priesthood. It is agreed that though such mediators may grandly assist, they are not absolutely required in the moment of enlightenment. The experiential instant of at-one-ment. For those able to hear and comprehend the subtlest of his teachings, which are ungraspable by the ordinary mind, the empowerments come through an unbroken lineage of returning avatars such as Yeshua. The enlightened ones orally transmit the awakening energies and practices to adepts, who then pass on the quickening energies and teachings to initiates from generation to generation. Some of these teachings are recorded in sacred texts. What cannot be conveyed through spoken concepts and written symbols is transmitted orally as pure sound syllables and ultrasonic frequencies. With the coming of a master, there is also the gathering of disciples and the organization of the teachings. Out of convenience, these are usually collectively known by their enlightened teacher's name. But the label is not the content. Merely calling yourself a Christian does not make you light anointed. You, like all initiates on the path of awakening, when all is in a ripeness, may also, as we did, receive, practice, and know for yourself the existence and fruit of the spiritual lineage of light beyond names. We encourage those who walk with us, who sincerely ask to know the infinite way, to investigate, question, and experiment with our teachings and practices. Intend that the dormant light codes passed down to you through your genetics be activated. Have your own personal and direct experiences of the truth we share. Come alone to the beloved and know the oneness. In my years with Yeshua and Miriam in India, before we began our public ministry, I had many experiences with masters and saints, experiences that could fill books. Besides the beautiful teachings of Ram, Krishna, and Babaji, we feel a great affinity with the copious words of wisdom and alchemical practices given by Shakyamuni Buddha to his disciples. His teachings have been passed on orally these past 500 years. Buddha's Dharma is only now being carefully recorded, and even so, there are differences of opinion regarding its translation. We continue to give the ancient scriptures from India and other texts, especially those which were translated and preserved, in our Mount Carmel library, much study and contemplation. There are some among us whose responsibility it is to commit Yeshua's sayings to writing, even though we realize our words may be distorted and destroyed by those who hold fear-based power now and in the future. Grandmother Anna has encouraged us to write our stories nevertheless. Some of Yeshua's and his closest disciples' esoteric meaning is clearly given in our records for those with ears to hear, but most of the deeper meaning is intentionally obscured so that a novice without sufficient training is not harmed and cannot bring harm to others. The remainder of the teachings and practices, which are quite vast and powerful, are given orally to anyone who is ready to take on the increased responsibility of bringing no harm to any form of life, bringing only benefit to all beings. Yes, this spiritual lineage exists in your day. I had wondered about that. But the ones, both male and female master teachers, capable of transmitting the authentic empowerments are not necessarily affiliated with any particular religion. Although there are some masters who definitely hold influential positions and are known publicly, there are others who choose to remain incognito. Should you be led through synchronous events to find such a teacher, be patient, take time, and really get acquainted with them. Get to know the devotees, the teachings, and their fruits. Carefully observe and question. Do not be gullible. Your soul is ultimately your responsibility, not your teacher's. Until you know with absolute certainty that you can place your life in their hands and that they are willing and capable of joining you completely in the transmutation of your karma, refrain from giving your power away. Yeah, that's really important to remember. One key to recognizing an authentic teacher is to assess how you feel in their presence. Is your heart and mind expanded with love? Is their luminosity and behavior consistent and stable? Do they present themselves with humility and a lightness of being? Some teachers may be very unorthodox and outrageous in their methods. Others may be quite stern and disciplined, but none take themselves or this illusory world too seriously. After a time with your teacher, you are finding the hard edges of your persona and mind softening, the boundaries that confine your heart dissolving, your actions less reactive, and your embrace of life more kind, gentle, patient, and spacious. The saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, is the appropriate view, perhaps frustrating and mysterious to the naive seeker, but understood by the ripe soul. And then there's just a little pause there. I'm actually going to leave it there because there is still quite a way to go in this chapter. Mary of Bethany has quite a lot to share with us, and it's very important. And I feel that we should just take a pause and really integrate what she has said, because she has shared some really powerful information there and really important to take on. And I resonate so much with what she has shared. it's really what I have been learning on my healing journey as well. And it's really confirmed a lot of that for me, which is just beautiful and lovely to see and hear. And I would love for you, if you've never considered before that this life is an illusion, if you can play around with that idea and try and remember that when you are having some really difficult moments of struggle, it is really quite empowering. At least I have found it to be quite empowering when I just remind myself that this is part of a play that we are playing out. We are characters. This is our, this is this life. I'm in this life, I'm Paula, but my soul is so much greater than that and has had many experiences and learned many things. And I think it can help us to not be so attached when things are difficult, because we can step back and say, okay, yes, I'm going through a painful experience right now, but why? Why am I experiencing this? Instead of just feeling like, oh, the world's against me, or is God punishing me, or whatever other thoughts we can have, if we step back and think, okay, maybe my soul chose for this challenge to happen. What does my soul want me to learn? What does my higher self want me to learn in this moment? What do I need to let go of? What beliefs and identities do I need to shift? What do I need to heal within myself? Especially with sicknesses and illness, I don't believe any of them are an accident. Especially for myself, I tend to get migraines a bit. And when I get a migraine, it's the full-on headache, the nausea. I have to lie down. I have to go to sleep. And it usually happens when I have been pushing myself and doing too much. And it's often a way for me to be like, okay, you need to stop and you need to take better care of yourself. And I find that when I am living a more balanced life, I don't really get them very much. And when I'm pushing myself too much, I tend to get them more. There could be other reasons as well for it, but that's what I've gathered so far. And I feel like it can be very helpful. I do actually have a healing meditation on my YouTube channel that invites you to go into your body and think about an illness or something that you're struggling with and try and understand what the message that has for you. So if that's something that interests you, I'll link that below. Also, developing a relationship with a higher being, whether it's the angels, whether it's God himself, whether it's the creator or the universe. I don't think it really matters that much what you call them, whether they're your spirit guides or ascended masters. You could connect with Anna, with Mary Magdalene, with Yeshua. I have many times. It just matters to know that they are all there to support you. They love you and they want you to achieve the most that you can in this lifetime. And ask for their help, ask for their support and their guidance. And they will give it to you if you're open to receive it. They've helped me a lot. So I just wanted to end with that. And I'm looking forward to continuing on with what Mary of Bethany has to share with us. She's going to go into the discourse of past life as Mary Magdalene. So that will be quite interesting. And yeah, I will see you all in the next episode where we will continue on with the journey. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you then. Bye.